Hello, everyone, and welcome to this edition of the Rebel Rise Live podcast. I'm David Johnson, along with your co-host, Dave Bevan, on this Thursday, December the 8th, 2016. I want to wish you all a very Merry Christmas, as recruiting season always coincides with the holiday season, and it is an exciting time of the year. You look at where Ole Miss is right now in the national recruiting rankings, and they're in the 50s. So, there's one school of thought. There's just not a lot to get excited about with this class. Au contraire, mon frere. Let me tell you something. As we get closer and closer to National Signing Day, this is going to be a very, very exciting recruiting cycle for us. There are a lot of unknowns in this class, and the ground is shifting quickly, Dave. I mean, every day things are changing. New offers are going out. They're spitballing a lot of stuff out there just to kind of see what sticks right now. But as far as any of the recruiting classes at Ole Miss that I've ever covered on December the 8th, this one is certainly the most unsettled. That's not necessarily a good thing, but in terms of the excitement and the entertainment of following it through all the way to National Signing Day, Dave, this class is going to have a lot of peaks, valleys, twists, turns. It's going to be interesting, and I really think on a day-to-day basis.
Yeah, I agree, David. As you said, there's some spitball offers going out there, as you put it, and that's, where our job comes into play is trying to figure out, who are going to be those hot targets to really zone in on. And, one position of area of need that is quite obvious in this class, David, is the linebacker positions, and the staff wants to grab several handful of linebackers in this class. And you already
say several handfuls.
I would say a good handful. At least maybe count 5 on your fingers, somewhere around the 4 to 5 range. Is that a good estimate right there?
Oh, yeah. If that qualifies as several handfuls, I'm with you the whole way, man. Several handfuls of linebackers are needed at Ole Miss. I don't think a truer thing has ever been spoken. Proceed, Dave.
Yeah. So, you got to find, who's going to come in with this class with, you've already got the commit of Josh Clark in there, who remains very, very solid with his commitment to Ole Miss. Rock solid as it stands right now, and
that's the key word this time of the year. As it's the key phrase, as it stands right now. Because again, I'm going to tell you, man, one phone call, one offer, one non-phone call, anything can shake things up this time of the year, and that's why we all follow it so closely. Is that it changes not only day by day, but sometimes hour by hour. And Dave, this is a big weekend for Ole Miss in terms of mid-year recruits. This weekend in Oxford, they'll be bringing in let me just say it, several handfuls of these possible mid-year guys, some top high school prospects in for their official visit weekend this weekend. We'll be staked out there all weekend, bringing you everything that we possibly can on how the visits are going, the exit interviews, and all of that. And again, that's something fluid. You never know how that's going to work out. There's some years where all of the recruiting media is staked out in the hotel parking lot as the kids get ready to leave, and that's perfectly fine. There have been times where all the recruiting media is staked out in the hotel parking lot, and they come out with a broomstick and a rake and run us off. And tell us, nope, not talking to them until they get off campus. Well, at that point, we can just pack up and leave, go home, and start burning batteries in our cell phone. So, as of right now, the way it stands, we've had no mantra issued by Ole Miss about, well, you can't be out there Sunday, don't talk to the kids until they leave campus. Generally, when they exit the hotel, that's considered to be the end of their official visit, and we can get those willing to talk when they walk out the door. So that's the plan right now for Sunday, okay? And it'll be all through the day Sunday, because some of these kids will arrive, Friday morning. Some of them won't get into Friday night, and the 48-hour clock, which is the time you can be on campus for an official visit, starts as soon as they arrive. What is an official visit? And some of you who are more cut, so to speak, in the world of recruiting, you don't need that explanation. Some of you do. An official visit is when the university can pay for the prospects' travel to come to their campus. And once they get on their campus, they pay for every meal. They pay for lodging. And essentially that's it. I mean, you spend the entire weekend on the campus talking to the coaches, talking to the players, getting a feel for the facilities. You're going to take the academic tour. You're going to talk to the academic people as well. But generally, they treat you like royalty. I mean, when you step on campus, you're going to walk in your room, and there's basically going to be a snack buffet set up for you in your room, a cake, with your jersey number on it, all that kind of stuff. And then they're going to take you out and wine and dine you. One of some of the favorite hot spots, of course, for breakfast, Big Bad Breakfast here in Oxford. The Oxford Grill House is a must. Boo Ray's is generally on the list. City Grocery. They pretty much leave it up to the recruit and their family where they want to go to eat. And okay, so what happens at the meals? Well, your position coach is generally going to be there. Hugh Freeze won't be at every one of them because they're going to have 15, 18 guys on campus this weekend, so he won't be at every one of the prospects' meals, but your position coach will be there. Generally, one or two of the recruiting assistants, the recruiting staff guys will be there. Depending on which players are in town, they'll bring a player or two to sit down with you and your family, and it's a great time. And as soon as you sit down at the table, the hors d'oeuvres start coming. I mean, I can remember back to last year to my son's official visit, our first meal was at the Oxford Grill House. As soon as we walked through the door, there were 7 or 8 appetizers rushed to the table. They were ready for us. I mean, anything you wanted to drink, eat, whatever. And, I could barely move when I got up to walk out of that last year. And I'll tell you a true story. By the time they fed us Saturday morning and the time they fed us for lunch, my wife and I checked out the rest of the way. We got back to the hotel room. We were like, we don't want to eat anything else this weekend. So we kind of just told the coach and staff, look, we're cool. It was the weekend of the state title games over at Vaught Hemingway. We don't really care to go out and eat. Y'all do whatever y'all need to do with Eli. We're going to walk over, watch Oxford play in the state championship game. Excuse me. And just hang out in the hotel. And they were insistent about us hanging out in the hotel. We live here in Oxford. We didn't have to stay at the inn at Ole Miss or anything like that, but they were insistent about it for us to get the full official visit experience kind of thing. So anyway, we do exactly what we're planning on doing. We're in the hotel room getting ready to go over to the vault, get a phone call, come downstairs. And even though we had declined to eat, they catered us food to be brought up to the room. And it was like chicken wings and pizza and just everything you can think of. And so I gained like 20 pounds that weekend, I think. But nevertheless, that's kind of what an official visit is. We ended up, went out with Matt Luke on that Friday night and had a big dinner with him and his wife Ashley and. Let's see, Alex Givens was there, Jordan Sims was there, Sean Rawlings and Robert Conyers came by, and that was at the Oxford Grill House. And then the next morning, Matt had to get up and fly to Dallas. He was putting the finishing touches on Greg Little's recruitment. So we ended up having a meeting with Freeze over at the Manning Center, and then we did the academic stuff and all that, which a lot of it was kind of boring for me because obviously we're in a different situation than most recruits. We knew where Eli was going, and we pretty much know everything we need to know about Ole Miss. So it was kind of weird in one aspect of it, but nevertheless, that's what's going to be going on. Times about 18 or 20 this weekend when these guys get to campus, and it's the last best shot to make a great impression on these guys. So let's talk about some of the guys coming in this weekend. How about Jonathan Abrams? Let's start with him, Dave. Jones County safety. He is a proven SEC commodity, and that makes him high priority. And when I say proven SEC commodity, he signed with Georgia out of high school, out of East Marion, Mississippi High School, started 4 games for the Bulldogs as a true freshman. Came back home for personal reasons. Nothing shady, nothing bad. He needed to be back home. and then rolled in Jones, and now, boom, he's back out there, and it's LSU, it's Ole Miss, it's Alabama. Georgia re-offered him. I mean, that tells you something about how Georgia felt about him after he left the program. They wanted him to come back. He is a big-time target for Ole Miss. He's already taken an official to Alabama. He was at LSU last weekend. And I caution you about these official visits where when these kids are on campus, they get that bump effect. The school gets that bump effect. How many crystal balls did you see start trending towards LSU for Jonathan Abram last weekend? I mean, that was popping up on the front page because he was there. Somebody had heard something good. Jonathan Abrams is a full-grown man. He's mature. He's been through this process before. He's going to take his time, weigh all of his options. So I would caution you about getting too excited about what you hear about him and his Ole Miss visit this weekend. Just as I would last weekend when you started seeing the crystal balls pop for LSU. But definitely a big-time need, big-time want for this Ole Miss football program. He's on campus this weekend. All right, let's talk about a guy that we're not 100% sure will be here this weekend. High school prospect, 5-star offensive tackle Walker Little. Now, I got a little information yesterday telling me that Little probably wasn't going to make that visit. It looks like Tom Herman, being in place at Texas, has really kind of maybe soared to the forefront, passing even Stanford for where a lot of people feel Walker Little is going to end up. Now, Little is a special case, and he has an older brother and an older sister that are students here at Ole Miss, so maybe he does come, just out of respect for the program. No doubt he's very close to this coaching staff and very close to this football program, and he does have blood within the walls of Ole Miss. So it won't surprise me if in the end he decides he is going to come and he does in fact make it here. After I had one source tell me yesterday, and this is a very good source, that it was doubtful if he was even going to come, had another tell me that just a couple of days ago the Rebels felt really good about things. So, but listen, we're not here to blow smoke at you, Dave. Walker Little has not been trending towards Ole Miss for a long time now.
Yeah, he hasn't, and as you just said, David, with Tom Herman now in the picture of Texas, what you're hearing is things have started shifting, as possibly Texas over Stanford, and that just shows you how recruiting can just change at any moment, at any hour of any day. Because Walker Little had been trending on the crystal balls towards Stanford, and a lot of that has to do with Stanford being a highly academic school, and Walker Little is academics is going to play a big role in his recruitment. I mean, he is really focused in on academics. If he were to choose Ole Miss, he's going to go by a lot to do with what Ole Miss has to offer academically as well.
Yeah, and let me say this. You make an excellent point about how things change so quickly. What we report as true today may not be the fact 2 days later. It's not the case that it wasn't true today. It's just the fact that things have changed. And if you're going to follow recruiting, and those of you who do follow it closely totally understand this. Things change all the time. You got to understand that. And I say that very selfishly, as I was raked under the coals by a few guys last year when Jeffrey Simmons flipped to Mississippi State on National Signing Day. Listen, I'm telling you, at 12:30 the morning of National Signing Day, 12:30 a.m., when that Tuesday turned into a Wednesday, he was rock solid to the University of Mississippi, and he had told them that. I know that for a fact. And then things started getting weird Wednesday morning. We don't have any control over that. I mean, we can tell you how things are right now and how we think they may go, but getting inside the mind of a 17, 18-year-old kid trying to make a big life decision, I'm not Nostradamus and don't claim to be. So please take that in mind as you read the Daily Rebel Rise and everything. Just because we said it's so today doesn't mean it's going to be so tomorrow. I mean, it can change quickly. But Walker Little, we'll see if he makes it. Right now the best I can say is there are conflicting reports. I tend to go with the one that says he's probably not coming. But at the same time, Walker Little's got a connection to Ole Miss. I can see him honoring the scheduled visit and coming in here. And if he does, let's see what Hugh Freeze and Matt Luke can do with it. But that'll be interesting to see Friday. If Walker Little sets foot on the Ole Miss campus, that'll be a big deal. Another guy coming in this weekend, Markel Winters, former Ole Miss defensive end commit out of Jones County Junior College, teammate of Jonathan Abram, whom we just talked about. Markel decommitted back in November, opened things up a little bit, got an Auburn offer, then he opened things up, has not yet even been to the Auburn campus. Arizona State tried to get him to come in last weekend on an official visit. He did not make that visit. He will be here this weekend. I fully expect Markel Winters to climb back in the boat and sign papers with Ole Miss next Wednesday, which is the first day the mid-year JUCO guys can sign. But he will be here this weekend as well. Another big-time JUCO defensive lineman coming in this weekend, Isaiah Buggs out of Mississippi Gulf Coast Community College. Now, for the longest of time, the story on Buggs has been he's just having a good time, he's playing the field, he's going to LSU. The intel I'm getting on that right now is that may not be the case, that in fact, Alabama and Ole Miss are probably ahead of LSU right now in the recruitment of Isaiah Buggs. Now, what does that mean? I'm not quite sure what to make of it. Does it mean LSU may be going in a different direction for this Ruston, Louisiana native? Or does it mean Alabama and Ole Miss have just done a better job? Does it mean Buggs sees opportunity here at Ole Miss? He does not speak to the media very much at all. We hope to get him Sunday for you when he wraps up his official visit. But I would have told you a month ago, forget about Isaiah Buggs. Forget about the buzz out there. It's kind of come back around full circle. Isaiah Buggs, I think, is in play for Ole Miss right now at this moment. And, Dave, again, it just goes to show you how things can change in recruiting very quickly.
Yeah, as you just said, it could change at any moment. Isaiah Buggs, he's an interesting prospect. You mentioned about how he's just enjoying the spotlight. If there is someone who really deserves it, Isaiah Buggs is definitely one of them. I mean, he was hardly recruited, if any at all, coming out of high school.
Well, because he was a known grade casualty coming out of high school. Mm-hmm. That's why he didn't get the attention and the quote-unquote love.
Right, but now he's getting attention across all across the country. He posted a social media pic that just scrolling through my timeline one day, noticed he posts a lot on social media, and he put a picture of him in high school to what he is now. The guy has blown up over the course of
well, that's no bad. I've blown up since high school.
in a good way, muscular way.
Yes.
Yes. Isaiah, he's a prospect that he has a speedy to him to where he can play on the edge, but he really looks like that guy who could, if Ole Miss come in and play for that 3 technique on the inside.
Well, I'm going to send you a photo of me in high school and me now, and you can see what blown up since high school really and truly means. Because, I mean, I may have set the state record on that one. Jordan Scott, another defensive lineman, is a high school cat coming in from Pinellas Park High School, Largo, Florida. Chris Kiffin went in with him last night. Maurice Harris was at his house last week. So Ole Miss really, really rolling out the red carpet for Jordan Scott. He took an official to Louisville last weekend. And since that time, my good friend Mike Hughes from Louisville, maybe another guy, have crystal balled him to Louisville. I don't agree with him. I think Jordan Scott is wide open. And when he left Louisville, very smartly said, listen, everybody's even. I haven't seen Ole Miss yet. He's about to see Ole Miss this weekend. He and his mom told me himself his mom really likes Maurice Harris. There was some concern on that family's part. Jordan Scott was once committed to the University of Florida. They dropped him. Talking about blowing up here. Jordan told me himself he had added some weight, and Florida just flat out said, look, we don't like your body type anymore. We're moving in a different direction. When Coach Harris went in to do his in-home, that was Mama's primary concern. What does this scholarship offer mean? And is it for real? And is it all the way past the finish line? And they got the answers they wanted, and Mama really, really likes where Ole Miss sits right now. She'll be here with Jordan, coming in on an airplane. Jordan's second time only ever to fly. His first time was last weekend when he went to Louisville. We were talking a couple of weeks ago, and he's like, man, I've been to Georgia, and pretty much, for the most part, just stayed in Florida my whole life. Never been to Mississippi, never been to Kentucky. So he's kind of broadening his horizons right now, and he's just going to get a whole weekend, an eye full of Oxford, Mississippi. And I got a good feeling about Jordan Scott that he's going to end up here. 0 tech guy, 1 tech guy. I mean, he is an immovable force. He's 345 pounds right now. Probably Ole Miss would want him to probably shed a few pounds right there just so his mobility would be a little bit better. But big-time guy that you can play in the interior of your defensive line. We'll see how that shakes up. Again, he gets in town on Friday. Jordan Tiamu, the quarterback out of New Mexico Military Institute, set to get here on Friday to spend the weekend at Ole Miss. He has offers from Ole Miss, Southern Miss, and New Mexico. How about a guy from Hawaii having 2 offers from Mississippi schools? Minnesota also offered him on Monday, by the way. I understand he will not be visiting Minnesota. Minnesota offensive coordinator Jay Johnson actually went to Roswell, New Mexico on Monday, offered him in person, and Ta'amu kind of told him, hey, I'll come up there and visit after I visit Ole Miss. He's later backed off of that and said, no, I'm not going to visit Minnesota. I'm going to Ole Miss. He will definitely announce by Wednesday, which is the first day for mid-year enrollees that can sign papers. He may announce even before then, truth be known, Dave. And the Rebels need a JUCO quarterback in this class. And we'll talk about that in just a little bit, but I know you've watched film on Tiamu at this point. I mean, your thoughts on Jordan? I mean, he's a 6'3", 200-pound dual-threat guy that really had a bang-up year out there in his JUCO league.
His film does look good, David, and you know, he's an under-the-radar guy, and you know, now that Ole Miss is starting to notice him, as you mentioned, Minnesota has started to notice him as well. And as you said, you know, it's very important for Ole Miss to pick up a couple of quarterback prospects in this class. The only 2 scholarship quarterbacks that you have currently right now on the depth chart is Shea Patterson and Jason Pellerin. So
and let me just interject something right there. There's some speculation out there that Jason Pellerin may want to transfer. Let me say this: we have heard absolutely zero about that from any credible sources at all. So at this point, move forward considering Jason Pellerin's on the roster. However, I will say this. You know, I have heard from credible sources there is a thought process about moving Jason, perhaps to linebacker, perhaps to tight end, get him on the field more. He's still a guy that could always play quarterback for you in an emergency situation, even if you move him to linebacker. But that's why it makes it even more important to have a JUCO quarterback in this class that will be here in January, so that you've got a little bit more experience behind Shea Patterson moving ahead. So if Shea is your starter this fall, and he will be, then you're talking about having, you know, Jason Pellerin still on the roster, even though he may be moonlighting at another position part-time. But then you've got a JUCO guy that has played some college football before. It's got a little experience. And then behind those guys, you got Grant Ressmeyer, who was the walk-on true freshman, redshirt freshman this past year. And then you got Jack Diamond coming in January, who is a walk-on true freshman. And then Alex Fennell, who right now is set to get here in January as well. So you know, your quarterback situation will be a lot more solid if you can add that JUCO guy. All of this traces back to the fact that Devontae Kincaid and Ryan Buchanan both left the program at the same time. And that's hard to recover. That hurt in your quarterback depth right there. But anyway, Jordan Ta'amu will be on campus this weekend to take his official visit. Other guys coming: LeBron Ray, the big defensive end out of the state of Alabama, the 4-star prospect. Listen, I'll just tell you now, don't get your hopes up. It would take a miracle and a mountain moving for Ole Miss to get LeBron Ray, in my opinion. I think he is going to the University of Alabama, and I don't think there's anything anybody can do about that. Outside linebacker Dakota Allen out of East Mississippi Community College. He will be on campus this weekend. He is probably the Rebels' top JUCO target. Dakota, as we mentioned, Dakota Allen, Alex Fannell, the true freshman quarterback out of Richmond, Virginia, he's coming as well. I think R.J. Sneed is actually coming back this weekend just as a visitor. He's already taken his official, so it won't be in an official capacity. Brendan Williams, he's the mystery linebacker, okay? He is our mystery linebacker that we referred to. And I'll talk a little bit about why he was the mystery linebacker. I put the note up yesterday on the Rebel Rise after somebody had kind of blurted it out about this guy's recruitment. Look, he's out of the Birmingham, Alabama area, and he was not a highly recruited prospect out of high school. Actually played wide receiver and safety. 6'4", 200 pounds out of high school. Now he's 6'4", 230 pounds over at Northeast Mississippi. And he went to Northeast as a full qualifier, meaning he's played one season there. He's free to go. He's fully qualified. So Ole Miss knew that. They weren't sure anybody else knew that this freshman over at Northeast that had 89 tackles this year was free to go. They wanted to keep it on the lowdown. Well, the cat's out of the bag right now. And most likely, as soon as he squares all of his paperwork away and make sure he's 100% academically eligible after this semester, Brendan Williams is going to commit to Ole Miss. Okay, so there you have that. He will be on campus this weekend. Okay, another Ole Miss commit, Javian Hamilton out of Jones County, the third Jones County guy that's going to be on campus this weekend. He'll be here to take his official visit, mid-year enrollee as well. Man, he can fly. He's a rocket. Okay, so it'll be fun to watch him and see how kind of everything shakes out and develops. Now, so that's a snapshot, a capsule, if you will, of the guys that are going to be on campus this weekend. And listen, what we're telling you right now is probably going to be dead wrong by 8 o'clock tonight. Somebody won't be coming. 3 more will be coming. That's just where we're at right now at this time of the year. But nevertheless, this is the big visit weekend before the holidays. This is a major weekend. I'll say this. I think within the next 7 days, the Ole Miss's class is going to grow by 4 or 5. So you're fixing to see a lot of action. Then you'll go into the dead period. Dead period actually starts at midnight Monday, which is actually Sunday night now. When that clock goes from 11:59 p.m. Sunday to 12 a.m. Monday, that's when the dead period begins. Total misnomer right there. Don't mistake the dead period for a period of time where nothing's going to happen in recruiting. Things often happen more often during the dead period than they do during this live period where coaches are out seeing prospects and everything. There's still contact allowed between the coaches, just no face-to-face, no on-campus, no off-campus, head-to-head kind of stuff. That's what's going on in the dead period. JUCO signing day next Wednesday. Watch out. It's going to be wild. In addition to it being JUCO signing day, C.J. Avery, which Ole Miss has kind of crept back into the conversation for, my understanding is he's going to be in Oxford late Saturday night to kind of punch his official visit. It's going to be a quick one. It'll be Saturday night, Sunday, then he'll go home. He announces next Wednesday as well. So lots of things going to be popping over the next several days. And, Dave, it's a reason to be excited.
Yeah, as you said, David, it's exactly a time to be excited. A lot of action could happen over the weekend. And I wanted to talk about this guy, when we were talking about linebackers earlier. Talked to Mohamed Sanago. He was just offered by Ole Miss on Monday. I've seen some questions up on the board over the past couple of days, curious of how, the Ole Miss recruiting efforts have been out there. So I talked to Mohamed on the day following his offer, and it was a very busy day for him. Within the first 24 hours of being offered by Ole Miss, he was contacted by at least 5 Ole Miss staffers.
Well, and I think something telling about that is that he actually contacted you. I mean, that's a big deal right there when you're talking about, is a kid interested in a school or is he not? And when a kid reaches out to a writer covering a particular school, I mean, I think that's something that is that's noteworthy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and he has a very big interest in the SEC. When he talked about, Ole Miss, he referred to it, being an SEC offer. That is his first and only SEC offer to this point. I think Ole Miss really found a diamond in the rough there. He holds an offer from Houston. Of course, he's currently committed to Houston. Now, where that stands is right now, I asked him about Houston, and he basically did not say that he left with himself still being committed to Houston, of course, in the conversation, but he did say he was playing everything out by ear right now.
Well, you have no choice if you're him. Simply because you don't know if their new head coach will want it.
Exactly. He's in a situation where, the head coach that he committed to play ball for is now the head coach at Texas. And I asked him about Texas. Texas has not contacted him to this point since Herman has taken over that vacancy there out there for the Longhorns.
And that brings me to something else, and we're kind of shooting off the hip here at the end of this podcast, but anybody that follows recruiting that gets angry at a kid for breaking a commitment and going to school somewhere else, your eyes aren't open. Because let me tell you, it happens with schools every single day. It happens with coaches every single day. Just as Dave just painted for you right there. Listen, Tom Herman's been loving up on this linebacker for a long, long time as the head coach of Houston. Tom Herman gets the head coach job at Texas. This kid doesn't even exist in his eyes. And Coach, what about all them dadgum times you talked to me about commitment, integrity, and honor? And now you got a different job, and I don't even exist. You haven't picked the phone up to even call me. And then here's this kid, and this is a universal principle. If it happened at Ole Miss, it'd be the same way. Here's this kid that's been committed to a university for a long time. Okay, he's went out and bought school clothes, with big Houston logos on them. And again, we're talking universally here. You can just substitute Oregon or Ole Miss or Oklahoma as far as that goes for what we're talking about here. His mom and dad, they've gone out and bought the school colors, and they're planning on this is where Junior is going to be, so we can do this, and we can travel to this game and this game and this game. And then a rug's pulled out from under him. By who? By grown men. By grown men. These are still kids now. Technically, they're still kids. Realistically, they're still kids. They get screwed every day of the week by the system, by the college football coaches, by the guys who've been loving up on them. All of a sudden, they don't want them no more. Go somewhere else. Coach, what about family? What about honor? What about commitment, integrity? We found somebody better. So don't go griping about a kid who, for whatever reason, at the last minute decides he doesn't want to come to your school anymore. And that's the way it works. It is a business. I'll just be honest, I get so sick and tired of hearing about family. They treat me like family there. Because you can play football, that's why. And you're the one they want at that position. They don't run no more deeper than that. I'm getting fired up here. But I hate it to see people get on message boards and start chopping a kid up. Low-life bastard said he was coming here, now he's not. When it's a two-way street. And it's worse on the adult end of the street than it is on the recruit end of the street. And it's all across college football. Nobody's immune to it. Nobody. Man, if you listen to all of this podcast and got to this end, you're going to think I'm crazy. But that fires me up. I don't care. I don't care that a young man or a young man and his family changed his what the best possibility is. Because, had he broke the toe on his left foot or has an MRI that doesn't look right, they're done with him. And that's just the way it is. All right, Dave, you don't have to agree with me. Please don't. Tell me what I'm missing on that.
No, I agree with you. And you see it all the time in recruitment, as you mentioned, injuries. That's a hard thing to to see a prospect go through. Injuries happen all the time. They happen in high school. They happen, during their recruitment process, and there are several dozen out there every year that an injury, season-ending injury, calls big red flag question marks on the school's commitment to him at that point. And and then as you mentioned, coaches shifting into different directions, where that kid's heart was in that school, and you hear this a lot. I hear this a lot through the recruiting process. Coaches will tell you, don't commit to a coach.
Yeah. Why do they say that? Because the damn coaches are lying. I mean, that's what I'm getting at right here.
And they'll leave it at
I'm not
any
saying
minute.
That about Ole Miss coaches. This is a general conversation of college football in general, and the bottom line is this: is it wrong for a kid to be committed to a school and then change his mind? Is it wrong for a coach and a program to be committed to a kid and then change his mind? Not if you fully understand that business trumps everything else. It's just like, some qualities that are great to have as a human being don't necessarily translate over to the business world. And college football is all business. It's all about business. Don't fool yourself. It's all business. You are the consumer. It is a product. And the product is produced by the business, the machine. And that's what it is. So, and we've kind of strayed off the point here a little bit, but you're going to have a lot of flips and flops this time of the year. Don't blame the kid. Don't blame the kid. It's his decision, and even if the school was, stood by him the whole time and they were going to take him and all this kind of stuff, listen, man, that coaching staff's making business decisions. And that kid is a commodity. He fluctuates up, he fluctuates down. He's worth more this day than he is the next, or vice versa. And those decisions are made based on how those things are weighed out. It's not. There's not any chivalry in this stuff. That's what I'm saying. There's not any chivalry. Don't buy into the chivalry aspect. I mean, Podunk U could be recruiting a 5-star quarterback, and they love him to death until the moment in his last game of his senior year in high school, he breaks his throwing arm in 3 places. Then they're moving on. They're moving on.
Mm-hmm. And this also happens too, and then that school, tells them, and we're talking just, example school A here, tells them, hey, we'll just let you publicly decommit the kid, publicly decommit.
Oh yeah.
Out of respect for the kid.
Oh,
that happens.
Oh yeah.
That happens. And then the fan base is like, well, why?
Yeah, that happens a lot. A lot of the times the kids are allowed honor killings. Let me explain. As Dave just said, honor killings. In other words, we're not taking you. We're fixing to drop you. You go out there and decommit, save yourself a little face, or we're just going to flat out drop you and we'll leak it out that we have. So that's a lot of times you see decommitments this time of the year. It's face-saving decommitments that's been allotted to the kid by the school that no longer wants him. And again, we're talking elementary school here for those of you that follow recruiting intensely. You guys know all this stuff. But there are some newbies that are just getting into recruiting and then questions, and they may not want to ask those kind of questions out in the board because some of you may want to ridicule them or vice versa. You know what I'm saying. I mean, so there are no questions ever too elementary to ask us. For goodness sake, if you don't want to post it on the board, inbox us. But that's that's kind of it. I'm sorry I got on my soapbox here at the end. But as I was thinking about, the position this linebacker, Sonago, is out in Houston, Texas, where his head coach at Houston has gone to Texas and now isn't communicating with him, doesn't know who's going to be the coach at Houston and whether or not they want him or not. It just yanked my chain. I mean, and it's happening all over college football. It's just the way it is. Just the way it is. And the reason some coaches come out and they're not in favor of an early signing period for college football is it takes that maneuver away from them. Whereas a kid goes out and has a terrible senior year, looks lazy, gets fat, too late, coach. He signed his papers early. That's why you have people come out against that for the most part, if you want to know the truth. They want the flexibility to being able to drop a kid the Tuesday before the Wednesday of National Signing Day, in case something else comes along. So, it is what it is. Now, it all makes for high drama and great theater. That's why we have a website. That's why the recruiting industry kicks butt all across the country. This is interesting to follow. But it has a dirty underside. and I'll probably get my yard rolled for this one or something. But nevertheless, we're gonna always talk the truth. Let's talk the truth before we go about how we think this Ole Miss signing class is going to shape up, just in broad terms and in general. Cam Akers is the saving grace of this class, hands down. Y'all know that. If there's going to be any saving grace to what's probably going to be, it's going to be Hugh Freeze's worst recruiting class since he got here, that 2012 class, the first class that he only had a couple of months to assemble. And it could possibly be ranked lower than that class if Cam Akers is not on board in the end. But he's a saving grace. The rest of the way, look, you're going to have some guys that you're rolling the dice on. Much like that 2012 class that had some very, very good players in it. So, who will they be? I'm pretty confident Breon Dixon's going to be in that class, a 4-star linebacker out of Grayson, Georgia. I'm confident, as I said earlier, about Markel Winters out of Jones Junior College. Beyond that, I'm not very confident, Dave Bevan.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of those situations, as we've said all throughout the podcast, it could change at any given hour. Ole Miss could be in on this guy 1 minute and in on another guy the next minute. So, that's what the Rebel Rise is for everybody to, stay glued to and check up to every minute of the day. And this is the time of the year that it's going to start kicking in. But yeah, you mentioned that 2012 class. There was some guys in there that every old Ole Miss fan remembers that they were very lightly recruited throughout the process, but they made some huge impacts in there. Guys like Trey Elston, Mike Hilton, Cody Core, who did you see last Sunday, David? Caught that 50-yard pass, robbed of a touchdown there.
I missed it. I was in here staring at the computer, working my telephone, and covering Ole Miss recruiting. Well, listen, guys. Hey, sorry about the rant. We get fired up just like you do about things. And this time of the year, it's easy to get fired up. But we're going to call this podcast done. And we'll have more and more frequent podcasts for you as we get closer and closer to National Signing Day. Follow everything you can on the Rebel Rise. We'll update it as often as we possibly can daily. And get ready for a wild weekend. I think you're going to have one with the recruits coming in. So we'll see you on the message boards. Thank you all. We can't tell you enough how much we appreciate you guys for choosing Rebels 247 as your extended Ole Miss family. It means the world to all of us, and we thank you so much for that. So for Dave Bevan, I'm David Johnson for Rebels 247 and 247 Sports. And until next time, as always, hotty-toddy Rebel fans. Hotty-toddy Rebel fans.